Before we dive into this file from the archives of the clandestine services, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The stories from the Cold War are fading from living memory, and it is our job to document them before they disappear completely. Now, let's go back to the winter of 1983. The mistake began not with a grand strategic error or a failed communications intercept, but with a simple desire for comfort. It was December 14, 1983. The location was the Hauptbahnhof in Vienna, Austria. Vienna in the early 80s was a city of ghosts and spies, the revolving door between the Eastern Bloc and the West. It was a place where neutrality was a legal fiction and every cafe waiter or hotel concierge was suspected of being on someone's payroll. Standing on platform 4, shivering in the biting wind that whipped off the Danube, were Silas and Eleanor Vance. To the casual observer, they were exactly what their cover identities claimed: mid-level logistical consultants for an American agricultural firm, finishing a tour of European distribution centers. They looked tired, they looked bored, they looked harmless. Silas was 38, with thinning hair and a tendency to wear cardigans that made him appear older and softer than he was. Eleanor was 35, sharp-eyed, but perpetually hidden behind thick reading glasses and a scarf that obscured half her face. In reality, they were a husband and wife surveillance team for the Central Intelligence Agency, operating out of the station in Bonn. They were ghosts, officers designed to blend into the background, used for tracking, courier work, and low-risk observation. They were currently off-duty, heading to Zurich for a long overdue furlough. They carried no weapons. They carried no classified documents. They were, for the first time in 6 months, just people. The train to Zurich, the Arlberg Express, was delayed. When it finally pulled into the station, it was already overcrowded with holiday travelers, students, and businessmen. The Vances had second-class tickets, but as the crowd surged toward the doors, Silas grabbed Eleanor's arm. The wind was cutting through their coats. The platform was chaos. Silas saw an open door to a first-class carriage near the front of the train. It was quieter there. He made a snap decision, the kind of minor rule-breaking that tired travelers make 1,000 times a day. He signaled to Eleanor. They boarded the first-class car, moving down the carpeted corridor, looking for any refuge from the cold and the noise. Most compartments were full. Smoke drifted from under the sliding glass doors. Laughter and the clink of glassware echoed from the far end. Finally, near the middle of the car, they found a compartment that was empty. Or rather, it appeared empty. There was a singular coat, a heavy, expensive charcoal wool trench coat, draped neatly over the window seat facing the direction of travel. A leather briefcase sat on the floor, but the seat itself was empty. The owner was likely in the dining car or the restroom. Eleanor hesitated. The etiquette of European rail travel was specific. You did not simply occupy a reserved space. But Silas was exhausted. His back ached from 3 weeks of sleeping in stakeout vans in Berlin. He gestured to the empty seats opposite the coat. They weren't taking the man's seat, technically. They were just sharing the compartment. They stowed their luggage. Eleanor took the aisle seat. Silas took the middle, leaving the window seat opposite the coat empty. They settled in. The train whistled, a shrill sound that pierced the Vienna gray. The lurch of the engine signaled the beginning of a journey that was supposed to be about rest. As the train picked up speed, rattling over the switches and leaving the city behind, Silas closed his eyes. He didn't know it yet, but by sitting in this compartment, by placing himself in the orbit of that charcoal coat and that leather briefcase, he had just inserted himself and his wife into the center of a clearance-level black operation that Langley didn't even know existed. They had chosen the wrong seat, and the owner was coming back. The landscape outside turned into a blur of industrial rail yards and snow-dusted fields. Inside the compartment, the air was warm and smelled faintly of old upholstery and pipe tobacco. Eleanor opened a paperback novel, a spy thriller ironically, but her eyes didn't track the words. She was scanning the hallway through the glass door. Habits die hard. Even off-duty, Eleanor Vance was a watcher. She noticed the conductor pass by without checking tickets. She noticed the elderly woman 2 compartments down struggling with a hat box, and she noticed the man who stopped at their door 10 minutes after departure. He was tall. That was the first thing. He had to duck slightly to enter the compartment. He was perhaps 50 years old, with silver hair swept back from a high forehead and a face that seemed carved from granite. He wore a three-piece suit that cost more than Silas made in a month. He paused when he saw them. It wasn't a pause of confusion. It was a pause of calculation. His eyes, a pale, watery blue, flicked from Silas to Eleanor, then to their luggage, then to his own coat and briefcase. The assessment took less than a second. "Good evening," the man said. His English was perfect, accented with the transatlantic drawl of the diplomatic class, though there was something harder underneath the vowels. "Sorry," Silas said, straightening up, instinctively adopting the persona of the apologetic American tourist. "Hope you don't mind. The rest of the train is a zoo. We just needed a place to sit until the conductor sorts us out." The man smiled. It was a polite smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Not at all," he said. "Company is welcome on a long journey. Please, stay." He moved past them, settling into the window seat, reclaiming his territory. He didn't check his coat pockets. He didn't check the briefcase. He simply sat, crossed his legs, and stared out the window at the darkening Austrian countryside. For 20 minutes, silence reigned. It was the heavy, suffocating silence of strangers forced into proximity. Silas tried to relax, but his instincts were pricking at him. There was a rigidity to the man. Most travelers fidget. They check their watches. They adjust their ties. This man was still. He was conserving energy. Eleanor felt it too. She tapped Silas's knee with her foot, a signal they had used for years. "Pay attention." She lowered her book. "Heading to Zurich for business?" she asked, her voice bright and friendly. The man turned slowly. "Zurich, yes. Business? In a manner of speaking. And you? Americans, obviously." "Guilty," Silas chuckled. "Logistics, agricultural supply, boring stuff. We're looking forward to some chocolate and mountain air." "Agriculture," the man repeated. He tasted the word. Vital work, feeding the world. "And you?" Eleanor pressed gently. "You look like a banker." "I am an archivist," the man said. "I deal in history, old papers, rare manuscripts. I have been in Vienna appraising an estate. It was a good cover. Boring enough to discourage questions, intellectual enough to explain the suit. But Silas knew archivists. His uncle had been one. Archivists had ink stains and worn cuffs. This man had hands that were manicured and calloused in specific places. The ridge of the thumb, the trigger finger. Silas had seen hands like that on Marine snipers and field agents. The man reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a silver cigarette case. He offered one to Silas, who declined, and then lit one for himself. The lighter was a distinct, heavy gold piece. "I am Felix," the man said, exhaling a plume of blue smoke. "Felix Hofer." "Silas, this is my wife, Eleanor." "Charmed," Hofer said. The train rattled. The lights flickered. For a split second in the dimness, Silas saw Hofer's reflection in the window. The man wasn't looking at them. He was looking past his own reflection, scanning the corridor behind him. He was watching his six. Silas felt a cold knot form in his stomach. They weren't sitting with an archivist. They were sitting with a player. And judging by the tension radiating off the man in waves that only another professional would notice, Felix Hofer was a player who was running out of time. The train began its ascent into the Alps. The rhythm of the tracks changed, becoming slower, heavier. Outside, the snow was falling harder, turning the world into a void of white and gray. Hofer stood up abruptly. "I must visit the dining car," he announced. "My constitution requires coffee." He didn't invite them. He stepped out, sliding the door shut with a precise click. The moment he was gone, the atmosphere in the compartment shifted. Eleanor dropped the tourist facade instantly. She leaned toward Silas, her voice a barely audible whisper. "Did you see his shoes?" she asked. Silas nodded. "Handmade Italian, but the soles were wet. He didn't board when we did. He was walking the trackside or the service platforms." "And the briefcase," Eleanor said, glancing down at the leather case Hofer had left behind. "He left it. Who leaves a briefcase with strangers?" "Someone who wants us to know it's not important," Silas said. "Or someone who is baiting a trap." "Or," Eleanor countered, Someone who knows it's locked and booby-trapped and doesn't see two agricultural consultants as a threat. Silas looked at the empty seat Hofer had vacated. The charcoal coat was still there, but something else caught his eye. In the gap between the seat cushion and the armrest, deep in the upholstery where a casual check wouldn't find it, was a sliver of white. It wasn't paper. It looked like plastic. "Elle," Silas murmured. "Keep watch." Eleanor shifted, angling her body to block the view from the corridor glass. Silas reached down. He didn't jam his hand in. He used a pen from his pocket to gently pry the gap open. He fished the object out. It was a key card, a magnetic strip card. In 1983, these were rare. They were used for high-end hotels or secure government facilities. This one was blank white, no logo, no hotel name. But on the back, scratched into the plastic with a needle or a knife point, was a series of numbers, 10 to 2240. Silas memorized the numbers instantly. He slid the card back into the crevice, pushing it down exactly as it had been. "Key card," he whispered. "Generic, marked with coordinates or a code." "He didn't lose it," Eleanor said. "He hid it." "A dead drop? On a moving train?" "Risky, unless the pickup is on the train." Silas sat back, his heart rate climbing. "He's not an archivist, Elle. He's a courier, or a cutter, and he's actively working." "If he's a courier," Eleanor reasoned, "why leave the compartment? Why leave the hidden item with us?" "Because he's spotted surveillance," Silas realized. The thought hit him like a physical blow. He suspects someone is watching him. He's cleaning himself. If he gets stopped or searched in the dining car, he's clean. The card is here. "With the dumb Americans," Eleanor finished. "We're his safe deposit box." They looked at the door. Suddenly, the quiet compartment felt like a cage. If Hofer was being hunted, then the hunters were on the train. And if the hunters swept the train and found the card in this compartment, Silas and Eleanor Vance wouldn't be able to explain it without blowing their own covers. They were trapped between a master spy and whoever was chasing him, and the train wasn't scheduled to stop for another 90 minutes. Silas Vance had a photographic memory. It was the skill that had gotten him recruited out of university. He closed his eyes and visualized the numbers on the card. 10, 22, 40. It wasn't a date. October 22nd, 1940 didn't ring any bells relevant to current ops. It wasn't coordinates. Too short. "Locker combination?" Eleanor suggested, reading his silence. "Maybe. Or a frequency," Silas murmured. He stood up and pretended to stretch, moving to the window. He looked at the reflection of the briefcase on the floor. It was a thick, sturdy leather case, soft-sided. He noticed a small monogram near the handle, almost worn away. "VV." "He said his name was Felix Hofer," Silas whispered. "Monogram says VV." Eleanor adjusted her glasses. "Victor Volkov," Silas breathed. The name was a ghost story in the Bond station. Volkov was a legend in the KGB's first chief directorate. He wasn't just an officer, he was a fixer. He was the man Moscow Center sent when an operation was falling apart or when a high-value asset needed to be extracted from a hostile environment. If this was Victor Volkov, then this wasn't just a courier run. This was a crisis. "Volkov operates out of East Berlin," Silas recalled. "If he's in Vienna and heading to Zurich, he's moving something or someone out." "The briefcase isn't the package," Eleanor noted. "The card is the key to the package." "He's using the train as a moving dead drop," Silas deduced. "He plants the card. He gets off in Zurich. The contact gets on, takes the seat, retrieves the card. No meeting, no contact." "But we took the seat," Eleanor said. Her face went pale. "We disrupted the signal. The contact, whoever is supposed to retrieve that card, will expect an empty seat or a specific signal. Instead, they find a married couple from Ohio. And Volkov had to improvise," Silas said. "He let us stay." "Why?" "Camouflage," Eleanor said. "A family man is less suspicious than a lone wolf. We make him look innocent." The door slid open. They both jumped, masking the reaction with coughs and movement. It wasn't Volkov. It was a conductor, a round-faced man smelling of garlic sausage. "Tickets, please." Silas handed over their second-class tickets, slipping a 20-shilling note underneath them. "Upgrade fee?" he asked with a naive smile. It was so crowded back there. The conductor pocketed the note smoothly, punched the tickets, and glanced at the empty seat. And the gentleman? Dining car, Silas said. The conductor nodded and moved on. The transaction was mundane, but it highlighted a terrifying reality. Volkov was established here. He belonged in first class. Silas and Eleanor were interlopers. "We have to move," Eleanor said. "We have to get out of this compartment." "We can't," Silas argued. "If we leave now, after he's accepted us, it looks suspicious. If he's Volkov, he's paranoid. If we bolt, he'll think we're surveillance. He might panic. A panicked KGB fixer on a civilian train is a body count waiting to happen. So we stay. We play the part. We wait for him to retrieve the card or for the contact to show up." "Then if the contact shows up while we're sitting here?" Silas looked at the seat cushion. "Then we're going to have a very awkward conversation." The dining car excursion lasted 40 minutes. When the man claiming to be Felix Hofer returned, he looked relaxed, but his eyes were hard. He smelled of brandy. He sat down, smoothing his trousers. "The schnitzel is terrible," he informed them. "Avoid it." "Thanks for the tip," Silas said. He had opened a bag of pretzels he'd brought in his pocket. He offered one to Hofer. The Russian declined. "You seem tense, Silas," Hofer observed. It wasn't a question. "Just the delay," Silas lied. "I hate being late. Schedules are my life. Logistics, you know." "Logistics," Hofer mused. "The art of moving things from where they are to where they are needed. It is a noble profession. It requires precision. And secrecy sometimes. Trade secrets?" He was probing. He was testing the cover. "Competitive pricing mostly," Silas said, keeping his voice boring. "Fertilizer distribution isn't exactly state secrets." "You would be surprised," Hofer said softly. "Information is the only currency that matters." He leaned back and closed his eyes, feigning sleep. But Silas saw the man's hand resting near the inside of his jacket. He was armed, not with a service pistol, likely something smaller, a PSM or a customized compact. Eleanor kicked Silas's foot again. She gestured with her eyes to the window. Outside, the train was slowing. Lights were appearing. "Salzburg," Eleanor said. "We're stopping." Salzburg was the border control point for the pass. Though they weren't crossing a national border yet, trains often stopped for crew changes. Hofer's eyes snapped open. He checked his watch. "Salzburg, yes." He looked at the seat cushion beneath him. He didn't reach for the card. He just verified its position with a slight shift of his weight. He was waiting for something at this station. The train hissed to a halt. The platform was covered in snow. Through the frosted window, Silas saw figures moving in the mist. Police? Customs? Or something else? Hofer stood up. "I need some air," he said. "It's freezing," Eleanor noted. "I enjoy the cold," Hofer said. He didn't take his coat. He didn't take his briefcase. He stepped out of the compartment and exited the train car onto the platform. Silas moved instantly. He slid to the window and wiped the condensation away. He watched Hofer on the platform. The KGB man walked to a newsstand, bought a paper, and stood under a yellow light. He lit a cigarette. He was waiting. "He's signaling," Silas said. Standing under the light. "The coat is in here, so he's in his suit sleeves in freezing weather. That's the signal. I am distressed. I am without cover." "Who is he signaling to?" Eleanor asked, peering over his shoulder. A man in a green parka walked past Hofer. They didn't speak. They didn't touch. But as the man in the parka passed, Hofer dropped his cigarette and crushed it with his heel. The man in the parka kept walking, boarding the train, but 3 cars down. "Reinforcements?" Eleanor asked. "Or the extraction team," Silas said. Look at the briefcase." While Hofer was outside, Eleanor knelt by the leather case. She examined the lock. It was a standard brass latch, but she noticed a tiny hair, a human hair, placed across the opening mechanism. A telltale. If anyone opened it, the hair would fall. "He's baited the case," she whispered. "He wants to see if we're curious." "Don't touch it," Silas ordered. "He's coming back." Hofer reboarded just as the whistle blew. He returned to the compartment, his face flushed from the cold. He looked at the briefcase immediately. The hair was still there. He relaxed visibly. Fresh air clears the mind, Hofer said, sitting down. You were out there in your shirt sleeves, Eleanor said, acting the concerned mother figure. You'll catch your death. Hofer looked at her, and for a moment the mask slipped. There was a genuine sadness in his face. My dear lady, he said quietly, I have been cold for a very long time. The train rumbled west. The dynamic in the compartment had shifted. Hofer seemed to have decided that the Vances were harmless, or at least that he could manage them. He began to talk. It wasn't a conversation, it was a monologue disguised as small talk. He spoke of history, of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, of the tragedy of Europe divided. He was testing their intellect. Do you believe in loyalty, Silas? Hofer asked suddenly. To my wife? Absolutely, Silas joked. To your company, Hofer corrected. To the abstraction of the institution. If they sign the checks, Silas shrugged. I'm a simple man. No man is simple, Hofer said. Every man has a breaking point. Every man has a price. Not always money. Sometimes it is safety. Sometimes it is pride. He was projecting. Silas realized that Volkov, if this was Volkov, wasn't just running an operation. He was contemplating a defect, or he was hunting a defector. The philosophical waxing was typical of Soviet intelligence officers who had spent too much time in the West. They became obsessed with the moral decay they were supposed to be exploiting. What about you, Felix? Silas turned the tables. You loyal to the archives? Hofer laughed, a dry barking sound. The archives are the only thing that is true. People lie. Governments lie. But a document, once written, remains. It may be hidden, but it does not change its mind. He leaned forward. Tell me, if you found a document that proved your company was, let us say, poisoning the land it claimed to feed, would you burn it? Or would you keep it? It was a hypothetical, but it was the key to the entire situation. Hofer was carrying something that proved a betrayal. I'd probably keep it, Silas said carefully. Insurance. Hofer nodded slowly. Insurance. Yes, a wise policy. Suddenly, the lights in the corridor went out. The emergency lighting kicked in, bathing the train in a dim red glow. The train braked hard, screeching metal on metal. Luggage shifted. Eleanor grabbed Silas's arm. Power failure? Eleanor asked. Or a stop, Hofer said. He was instantly alert. He reached into his pocket and his hand stayed there. The train came to a halt in the middle of a dark valley. No station, just pine trees and snow. Why are we stopping? Eleanor's voice rose a pitch, feigning panic perfectly. Engineering trouble, Hofer said dismissively. But he was watching the corridor door. Silas saw movement in the reflection of the glass. Shadows moving down the hallway. Flashlights. Police, Silas whispered. Hofer's face hardened. He looked at the briefcase. He looked at the seat cushion where the card was hidden. Then he looked at Silas. Silas, Hofer said, his voice dropping the diplomatic accent, becoming pure steel. If the authorities come in here, you do not know me. We met in Vienna. I am asleep. Do you understand? Why? Silas asked, dropping the confused tourist act slightly. What's in the bag, Felix? Nothing that concerns an agricultural consultant, Hofer hissed. But if you speak, you will find that agriculture can be a very dangerous business. The flashlight beam swept across their door. The handle rattled. Passports, a voice shouted in German. Border control. It was a random sweep, or a targeted one disguised as random. Hofer closed his eyes, feigning sleep, his hand still gripping the weapon in his pocket. Silas looked at Eleanor. They had a choice. They could signal the police, expose Volkov, and end this. But that would blow their cover, cause an international incident, and potentially lose whatever intelligence Volkov was carrying. The CIA mandate was clear. Gather intelligence. Do not intervene unless authorized. The door slid open. A beam of light hit Silas's face. Passports, the officer demanded. He was young, Austrian, bored. Silas handed over their blue American passports. The officer flipped through them. Purpose of travel? Vacation. Going home, Silas said. The officer shone the light on the sleeping figure of Hofer. And him? Don't know, Silas said casually. Met him in Vienna. He's been asleep since Salzburg. Think he had too much wine. The officer stepped into the compartment. He shone the light on Hofer's face. Hofer didn't flinch. The officer looked at the briefcase. He nudged it with his boot. Silas held his breath. If the officer asked to open the case, Hofer would shoot him. Silas was sure of it. "Wake him up," the officer ordered. Silas reached out and shook Hofer's shoulder. "Felix, police." Hofer opened his eyes, blinking groggily. It was a master class in acting. What is it?" He fumbled for his Austrian passport in his breast pocket, moving his hand away from the gun. He handed it over. The documents were perfect forgeries, likely unmatched. The officer scanned it. "Herr Hofer, archivist." "Yes? Is there a problem?" "Just a check. We are looking for a smuggler." "I have nothing to declare but my headache," Hofer grumbled. The officer hesitated, looking around the compartment one last time. His eyes lingered on the seat cushion where the card was hidden. Then he stepped back. "Danke. Good journey." The door slammed shut. The darkness returned. Hofer exhaled, a long, slow breath. He looked at Silas. "You are a cool customer, Silas. Most tourists would have stuttered." "I told you," Silas said, his heart hammering against his ribs. "I hate delays." Hofer smiled, but this time the smile was different. It was the smile of a predator who realizes he is in the pen with another predator. "Yes," Hofer said softly. "I am beginning to think you are not in agriculture at all." The train resumed its journey, lurching forward into the night. The encounter with the police had changed the dynamic irrevocably. The veil of polite fiction was thinning. Hofer knew that Silas had lied to the police, or at least manipulated the truth, with too much ease. Silas and Eleanor sat in silence, communicating through glances. They were in a bind. They couldn't report Hofer because they were undercover. They couldn't arrest him because they had no jurisdiction and no backup. They were merely observers to a crime they didn't fully understand yet. "I am thirsty," Hofer announced. He reached for his briefcase. Eleanor stiffened. The hair trap. Hofer snapped the latches open. The hair fell unnoticed. He reached inside. He didn't pull out a gun or documents. He pulled out a flask. Silver, battered, Russian-made. He unscrewed the cap and took a long swig, then offered it to Silas. "Cognac, better than the dining car swill." Silas took the flask. He smelled it. High quality. He took a sip, wiping the rim first, a habit, and passed it to Eleanor. She declined. "You have keen eyes, Eleanor," Hofer said, looking at her. "You noticed the cold when I went outside? You noticed the conductor. You watch everything." "School teacher," Eleanor lied smoothly. "You learned to watch the back of the class." "Ah, education," Hofer nodded. "Programming the youth, important work." He set the flask down. "I have a dilemma, my American friends. I have something that must be delivered to Zurich, but I fear I may not be able to leave the train station freely." He was recruiting them. Or using them. "Why tell us?" Silas asked. "Because you helped me with the police. You are pragmatic. And I suspect," Hofer's eyes drilled into Silas, "that you are adventurous." He tapped the seat cushion beneath him. "There is a key. A digital key. It opens a locker in the Zurich Hauptbahnhof. Locker 402. Silas didn't look at the cushion. "And what's in the locker?" "Truth," Hofer said melodramatically. "Evidence. Names of men who sell their countries for comfort." "Why give it to us?" "I am not giving it to you," Hofer corrected. "I am asking you to hold it. If I walk through customs and I am stopped, the key is found. Game over. If you walk through, you are tourists. Nobody stops the tourists." "You want us to be mules," Eleanor said, offended. "I want you to be patriots," Hofer said, "for the West." He dropped the bomb. He was admitting he was working against the East, or pretending to. It was a classic dangle. "I am Victor," he said, dropping the Felix alias entirely. "And I am trying to stop a war." Silas stared at him. "You're asking a lot for a train ride conversation." "The price is high," Victor said, "but the payout is higher." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a bundle of cash, Swiss francs, thick, 10,000 francs, for carrying a piece of plastic 50 meters past the customs gate. Silas looked at the money. It was a test. If he took it, he was a mercenary. If he refused, he was a moralist or a cop. "Keep your money," Silas said. "If this stops a war, I'll carry your plastic, but I want to know one thing." "Ask." "Who is waiting for you in Zurich?" Victor smiled grimly. "Ideally, the CIA. Realistically, my own people to put a bullet in my head." The confession, if it was true, changed the tactical landscape completely. If Viktor Volkov was defecting, and this was his desperate attempt to get data out, Silas and Eleanor were looking at the intelligence coup of the decade. But if it was a double cross, a way to plant disinformation on Americans, it could be a career ender. Silas made a decision. He would play along. "Where is the key?" Silas asked, though he already knew. Victor stood up. "Excuse me." He moved to the door, blocking the view from the corridor with his body. He pointed to the cushion crack. Silas reached down and retrieved the white card he had found earlier. 10-22-40. "Good," Victor said. "You are observant. You knew it was there." "I sat on it," Silas lied. Victor handed Silas a business card. It was for a bakery in Zurich. "Go to the lockers, retrieve the package, take it to this address, ask for Uncle Hans, give him the package, then walk away." "That's it?" "That is it." "What about you?" Eleanor asked. "I will create a diversion," Victor said. "I have enemies on this train. I saw them in Salzburg. They will focus on me. You will slip away." It was a classic scatter tactic. "Who are the enemies?" Silas asked. "Stasi!" Victor spat the word. "East German filth. They don't want me to talk." Silas pocketed the key card. He was breaking every protocol in the book. He was accepting a task from a known KGB agent without station approval, but the train was an hour from Zurich. He had no radio. He had to improvise. "We'll do it," Silas said. "But if this is a setup, Victor, I'm not in agriculture, and I will find you." Victor laughed softly. "I count on it." He sat back down, draining the flask. The tension in the room had shifted from suspicion to conspiracy. They were co-conspirators now, but Eleanor noticed something Victor didn't. She was watching the reflection in the dark window. The man in the green parka, the one from the platform in Salzburg, was standing in the corridor, 3 doors down. He wasn't moving. He was just watching their door. "Silas," she murmured, "we have company." Silas glanced fast. "Green parka?" "Yes, and he's on a walkie-talkie." The Stasi team was coordinating. They weren't going to wait for Zurich. They were going to hit the compartment before the station. The train was moving through a tunnel. The noise was deafening. It was the perfect cover for violence. "Victor," Silas said calmly. "They're outside." Victor didn't panic. He reached into his boot and pulled out a small automatic pistol. A Walther PPK. "Put that away," Eleanor hissed. "You can't have a shootout in a crowded train." "They will not hesitate," Victor said. "They are wet work specialists, not diplomats." "Give me the briefcase," Silas ordered. "What?" "The briefcase. If they want you, it's because they think the evidence is on you. Give me the case. You go out empty-handed. Draw them off." "And the card?" "I have the card," Silas said. "The card opens the locker. The briefcase is the decoy." Victor hesitated. It was a massive gamble of trust. He looked at Silas, really looked at him. He saw the calculation in the American's eyes. "You are agency," Victor whispered. Silas didn't deny it. "Give me the case." Victor shoved the leather case across the floor with his foot. "It is weighted. Papers, old newspapers. The real data is on microfilm in the locker." "Go," Silas said. "Head to the rear of the train. Draw them to second class." Victor buttoned his coat. He stood up, checked his weapon, and slid the door open. He stepped into the corridor and turned left, away from the green parka man, heading toward the dining car in second class. He walked with purpose. The man in the green parka saw him. He spoke into his radio and began to follow. 2 other men emerged from a compartment further down and joined the pursuit. They ignored Silas and Eleanor. They ignored the empty compartment. They were hunting the man in the charcoal coat. "He just saved us," Eleanor said. "He just used us," Silas corrected. "He cleared the path so we can get the intel out. He's the distraction. We're the payload." "Do we help him?" "No," Silas said, his voice hard. Mission first. We get to Zurich. We get the locker contents. The train burst out of the tunnel. The lights of a town flashed by. Zurich was 40 minutes away. The rest of the journey was a blur of adrenaline. Silas and Eleanor wiped the compartment down, fingerprints, any trace of their presence. They took the briefcase, though Silas suspected it was dangerous to hold on to it. They decided to leave it. If the Stasi came back, finding the briefcase with the Americans would be fatal. Leave the case, Silas decided. It's the decoy. If they search the train, they find the case here, empty. They think he dumped it. They took their own luggage and moved. They didn't stay in the compartment. They moved to a standing area near the vestibule of the car, blending in with smokers and students. They didn't see Victor again. They heard a commotion near the rear of the train, shouting, a dull thud that sounded like a body hitting a wall, but no gunshots. The Stasi preferred quiet work. When the train rolled into Zurich Hauptbahnhof, the platform was flooded with police. Not just customs, but heavily armed tactical units. Someone called it in, Eleanor whispered. Maybe Victor. Or the Stasi claimed there was a terrorist on board to cover their extraction, Silas guessed. They deboarded in the crush of the crowd. They walked arm in arm, the perfect boring American couple. They passed the police dogs. They passed the customs agents who were too busy stopping single men to look at a couple. They entered the main concourse. It was a cathedral of stone and clockwork. Silas scanned for the lockers. They were on the lower level, near the tram exit. Cover me, Silas said. He approached the bank of lockers. He found 402. He slid the magnetic card into the slot. Click. The door popped open. Inside, there was a small manila envelope taped to the top of the metal box. Nothing else. Silas grabbed it, shoved it into his inner pocket, and slammed the locker shut. He wiped the handle with his sleeve. Got it, he signaled to Eleanor. They walked briskly toward the exit. They didn't go to the bakery. That was a trap. Silas was sure of it. Uncle Hans's was likely a kill team or a dead end. They went straight to a payphone. Silas dialed a number that didn't exist in the phone book. It routed to a secure line at the U.S. consulate in Zurich. This is Traveler, Silas said. I have a package, requesting immediate extraction, code black. 2 hours later, Silas and Eleanor were in a soundproof room in the basement of the consulate. The envelope was on the table. The station chief, a gruff man named Miller, was wearing a tuxedo. He'd been pulled from an opera. He was wearing latex gloves as he opened the envelope. Inside was a single strip of microfilm and a handwritten note. Miller held the microfilm up to the light, then placed it under a magnifier. He went silent for a long time. Well? Silas asked. What did we just smuggle? Miller looked up, his face pale. It's the knock list, he said. Non-official cover operatives, ours, in East Germany. Silas felt the blood drain from his face. Victor stole our list? No, Miller said. Victor returned it. He pointed to the handwritten note. It was in English. To my friends in seat 4B. The Stasi stole this from your station in Bonn 3 weeks ago. They were going to publish it. I stole it back. I am not a defector. I am a professional. I do not like messy games. Consider this a professional courtesy. V. He gave it back, Eleanor said, stunned. He risked his life to give us back our own compromised agents? Why? Silas asked. Miller read the rest of the note. P.S. The leak is in your encoding division. Fix your house. Next time I keep it. He didn't want the Stasi to win, Silas realized. The KGB hates the Stasi. They're undisciplined. If the Stasi blew the cover of every CIA agent in Berlin, the West would retaliate. It would be chaos, war. Victor wants stability. He wants the Cold War to stay cold. Where is he? Eleanor asked. Victor. Miller picked up a telex report from the table. Swiss police found a man unconscious in the second-class bathroom of the Arlberg Express. Severe concussion, broken ribs, no identification. By the time the ambulance got there, he was gone, walked out of the back of the ambulance. Silas smiled, a genuine smile. He made it. Chapter 12. The Ghost. The debriefing lasted 3 days. Silas and Eleanor were commended for their quick thinking. though reprimanded for engaging a hostile target without backup. The agricultural consultant's cover was retired. They were moved to a desk job in Virginia for a year to let the heat die down. The microfilm saved the lives of 14 American agents operating behind the Iron Curtain. The leak in the bond station was identified, a clerk with a gambling debt, and plugged. But the story of the man in the charcoal coat became a personal obsession for Silas. He searched the agency files for Viktor Volkov. He found snippets, a sighting in Prague in '85, a grainy photo from a funeral in Moscow in '88. They never saw him again until 1991. The Berlin Wall had fallen. The Soviet Union was dissolving. Silas and Eleanor were in a cafe in Paris, celebrating their anniversary. They were older now. The Cold War was over. They had won, technically. Silas looked across the street. A man was walking out of a bookstore. He was older, frailer, using a cane, but he wore a charcoal wool coat. The man paused. He looked across the busy Parisian street and locked eyes with Silas. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He simply tapped the side of his nose, a universal gesture for secret, and turned the corner, vanishing into the crowd. Silas didn't chase him. He just picked up his wine glass. "Who was that?" Eleanor asked, missing the moment. "Just an old friend," Silas said, "from the agriculture business." He took a sip. The world had changed. The seats were different, but the game, Silas realized, the game never really ended. It just changed passengers.